I want to start today's show talking about the NBA because I have an analogy. I mean, this is no Colin Cowherd stars analogy. This is no Dan Patrick analogy. That the world of sports stunk this weekend. The NBA is sort of like social media. Let me explain. You could post a video that you think is the funniest content. Oh, this is an A-list interview. This is the funniest clip of, some nonsense we did in the studio. And it could get like tens of thousands of views. You're like, I thought that was going to hit. Then you can post a video of you like popping a pimple. And it has 12 million views. You don't determine what people want. They tell you what they want. It's mind-boggling. If you look at our social media or anyone's social media, they could have one or two videos every couple months that pop. And it's probably never what they think. If you looked at all of our videos of all time, you know what our most viewed videos are? Me giving my wife our dog, pimple popping, and when we had a slap bet and one of us lost and we had to slap the other person.
I'm sure every fella who posts on social media could relate. You think that everybody's going to love that picture of you and your kid. You
fishing.
You and that killer joke you told. But some random one of you and your puppy gets thousands of views out of nowhere. And you're like, huh?
So
how did that happen?
Let me explain. Again, you don't tell people what they want. They tell you what they want. And right now with the NBA,
there's no blueprint on what catches or what hits or what goes viral or what people like. It just happens.
You can't
organically
tell me what to be interested in. It sounds ridiculous, but
it's a tale as old as time, Rich. It's like any artist, right? They always have the story of, we weren't even going to put that song on the album. And the one that they weren't going to put on the album is the big hit always. And the one they thought was the big hit, no one gave a diddly squat about it.
No, great example. Shaggy.
The cartoon?
Like Scoob. No, not Shaggy. The artist Shaggy. The song, It Wasn't Me. There's a great story behind that song. Shaggy released, he had Mr. Boombastic in the 90s. That was a hit. But he had a couple stinkeroos in there. And the record label was like, yeah, I think we're dropping Shaggy. This reggae pop stuff isn't working. And the label was like, yeah, we're done. What do you got? What's the song? It wasn't me. This is all nonsense. Some random radio person, I believe in Hawaii, played it. A couple important people were on vacation, heard it. Long story short, this thing spreads like wildfire. Shaggy's a huge star. It Wasn't Me was one of the biggest songs of the 2000s.
So the Big Kahuna played it on the radio and became a hit?
Yeah.
And now the Big Buffoon is talking about it on Fox Sports.
So the thought is, everyone said no. But you know what the public said? No. That's the one we like.
Yeah. You don't know.
A rock band.
You don't know what's going to stick.
A rock band will say the label resisted this song, and then they put it out for like the fans, and it became their big hit.
Always happens.
Long story short, the NBA, much like all these things, you can't force on people what you think will work. And I'm not saying they're forcing it on us, but right now, if you were to say, what should be the Western Conference Finals, for example, right? OKC. You got Alexander, SGA, Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, a team that plays as a team. You got Jokic, who's fundamentally sound. You got the Grizzlies with, Jaren Jackson and Ja and everyone. Point is, if I were to ask you, Covino, who intrigued you? There's no young star. Maybe Wemby when he first entered the league, when we were all like, ooh, we got to see this guy. We're still talking about essentially the older guys in the NBA. LeBron, Steph, KD, Kyrie.
That all happened in the past few years, though. NBA was doing a great job of creating new stars for a long time.
But those new stars, time has passed, Covino.
Exactly. No. I'm just saying, that's all recent.
What teams intrigue you? Ask yourself that. And the sad reality is, it's veteran teams holding on because you just. Well, all right,
I would say, and I mean no disrespect to Danny G, our super producer who's on the phones at 877-99 on Fox, or any LeBron fan out there, but I think it's because of his longevity. We're still so focused on LeBron that conversations always come back to him and the Lakers.
LeBron's son, who isn't even NBA ready,
and I say that respectfully,
got more attention than any young star in years other than Wemby, maybe.
That's what I mean. Like, I say that, hey, props to him, but in reality, that conversation feels like 2000s. LeBron James, and we're still talking about him. I was wearing Jinko jeans when we were talking about LeBron James 20 years ago. And we're still talking about the guy.
Is LeBron James still playing?
There's room to talk about other people, but when it comes back to him, like, you're not really having conversations about the guys you should be talking about. Maybe that's part of it.
If I were to say Covino,
I'm not saying it's the only reason.
Like, look at the Western Conference, right? When you think of the teams that you would want to see, they're just the names of older veterans that you've seen before. Does the idea of like OKC get you all fired up, or Cleveland in the East?
It takes a minute too. It does. You know, I brought up music before. I don't like songs the first time I hear them. That's very rare. Familiarity takes a minute. You know, I have to listen to them 3-4 times before I'm like, yo, that one's the banger. So, I mean, it takes a minute to start to know a little bit about these superstars, and that's what All-Star Weekend is kind of about.
I don't know.
It puts them on a major platform, and you get to familiarize yourself with these guys, with these new stars.
But you tell me, is that how you look at it, or do you agree that you can't really force on people what they're supposed to be interested in? We'll take your feedback. We'll break. We'll come back. Because you can talk about it in any sport, right? I'm a big Mets fan. Pete Alonso, on paper, you always say, should be a bigger star. But there's something about him. Like, does anyone care about Pete Alonso other than me and Mets fans? During free agency, it seemed like no one cared about him. And you're the first guy to say, here's a guy that hits 40 or 50 home runs. He's a slugger. He does the whole LFM, let's effing go Mets. Everyone loves him, you would think. But do they?
Well, I think there's something about his personality that's not translating in New York and on a mainstream level where people think he's just a goofy, boring sort of player that hits bombs. And maybe there's something to be said about the NBA, but put your finger on it. What was rubbing you wrong with some of these younger players? Maybe it is like not wanting to participate in a slam dunk contest.
Right,
you got to watch Mac McClung. Maybe it's how pampered and annoying some of these players are, and load management. Maybe it's just rubbing people the wrong way. So maybe it's not necessarily them. Why isn't it translating is the question, I guess. We're live from the Mercedes-Benz studios.
In general, we like to think that we could tell people what they're interested in, what they like, what they gravitate towards. Networks do it. Podcasts do it, TV shows, movies. There's a sentiment that, we know what the public wants. But a lot of times the public just tells you what they want. You could try to push a new artist, a new athlete, a new face of a company on the general public. But they could very well just be like, no, we don't like that. We like that. It's like the famous story of Happy Days. Fonzie wasn't supposed to be the main character. How I Met Your Mother. It wasn't supposed to be about Barney Stinson. Did I do that? Urkel.
How about this one? Tori Nichols wasn't supposed to be anything more than a quick cameo on Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that same category as Fonzie.
It's more relevant than Henry Winkler, even though I love him. I'm just saying the season premiere just wrapped up. She's the main character of Cobra Kai.
But it just shows you that, like I said, Urkel, Fonzie, these are not designed.
The public decided.
So you could say these are the new faces of our sport, but if the public doesn't gravitate towards them, if you ask the average NBA fan what matchup you'd want in the NBA, most people would say, I don't know, maybe like the Warriors and the Lakers, because they're still hung up on Steph and LeBron and those older faces.
I think if you're asking why is this, because your point is valid, I think everybody and everything goes through transitional ups and downs, like transitional phases. I think we were a little spoiled in the NFL, like when we got all these slew of new quarterbacks. It made the transition easier because, like, whoa, wait a second, all these dudes are really good.
Yeah, I mean, we said goodbye.
You lost the old guys, and you embraced the new guys immediately.
Yeah, we said goodbye to Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees and that crew of quarterbacks. But we also welcomed in Burrow, Jackson, Josh Allen, like Jalen Hurts. So
it's like the holidays.
Yeah.
When you're growing up, remember when you were a kid, how great the holidays seemed? Then everybody grew up, and no one had kids yet, so the holidays seemed boring. Because you were going through that transitional stage of life and family. All of a sudden, your sister started having kids, and there was kids back in the mix, and the holidays got exciting again. You're like, oh, wow, their holidays are back, I guess. No, we just got through that transitional stage, and maybe the NBA, with all the changes they're making and all the changes they're forced to make and thinking about, the way the game has changed with 3 points, and it's become boring, and Silver's trying to figure out, well, how do we fix it? And the new format for the All-Star game, all these things are a little confusing to people. There's a new slew of characters that not everybody's embracing yet. It's just the transition. Like I said, there'll be a moment in time where all of a sudden you're like, I have another back now.
I have another reason. Who's arguably the best Major League Baseball player that's never sniffed the postseason for the most part? For the most part.
Trout.
Mike Trout, right? You could argue, maybe not the most personality plus guy, but you know what also takes a star like Mike Trout from being next level star? Never being relevant when it matters in the playoffs. Do you think maybe if the Spurs were more of an elite team and had more weapons and more of a vibe around Wemby to me is the most intriguing young star, but in a league where 20 of the 30 teams make the playoffs, they're still on the outside looking in. Is that a part of it too, where Danny, the biggest young star that might be the biggest, quote, attraction isn't even on a playoff caliber team?
Well, one of my favorite players in the league right now is De'Aaron Fox, and the Kings traded him to the Spurs. So the Spurs are trying to work on what you're talking about right now.
I mean, you can't.
We're coming off of crazy highs of a great MLB season, first time in a long time.
But it backs it up. What I said, Ohtani.
Another exciting NFL season, and then you're like, NBA, and you're trying to play catch-up now, but...
No, but it goes back to what I'm saying. Ohtani is the biggest star, but guess what he also did? The biggest star showed up on the biggest stage, and that team won the World Series.
I think once I'm stating the obvious here, but once the playoffs are kicking in, and you're seeing LeBron and Luka do their thing again, big team, big nationwide team, not just here in LA, with superstars that you recognize. When you see them competing with these younger dudes that you really don't know that well, you start kicking in, and your fandom starts to kick in, and you start getting excited about it.
Luka and LeBron, Steph and Draymond, like there's names that you want to say.
Yeah, but you're tuning into the NBA right after the NFL, right after Super Bowl. You're all hyped up about the Super Bowl, and then you're tuning into the NBA because it's all there is to tune into right as we approach All-Star break. So that's kind of boring as a casual NBA fan.
All right, let's go to Andy in Rhode Island. Andy, what is it? I mean,
Andy!
I don't want to talk about, the NBA, it's the three-pointers and this and that. Andy, to me, it's
just saying you just can't force what works.
Yeah, you can't tell people what they like.
No, absolutely, guys. And I feel that because, a lot of it kind of just goes back to revisionist history because, we can't really see who's going to be, the next breakout generational players ahead of time. So we kind of just cling back to, the guys that's still in the league that have been doing it for so long because I feel like a lot of it has to do with social media. We have so much access to these guys that, in a sense, it's always on to the next with the current society that we live in nowadays. And it's just so tricky because we want to embrace the new guys, but then I feel like a lot of these new guys, they don't have that superstar, that polarizing energy that we look forward to. Just like, you go back to Michael Jordan. He was so polarizing, but he was such a mystery because we didn't have all the access to him. So I feel like that's the biggest difference. And, like you guys said, it's a transitional phase, and we'll see where it goes. Right now, it's just up in the air. We can only hope for the best for the NBA, but it seems like we're embracing the NFL stars a lot faster because the NFL is just king. It really is.
It is, and it's that good of a product where you're not really competing with anything. If you're a casual NBA fan, you're oversaturated with other options. Like if you asked me honestly over the weekend, would you rather watch the NBA All-Star Game or Cobra Kai? I'm watching Cobra Kai. I know that sounds ridiculous, but my point is, you have options, as your mom would say, up the wazoo. You have so many other things to watch.
That is a mom
it's
catchphrase.
Competing with all these other things. So it's a mixture. It's a perfect storm of all of these things, Rich. You can't force these things, the new formats, the new stars, and you have all these other things to watch.
George in L.A., what's up, bud?
What's up, fellas?
What's up, man?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, glad to hear you guys this morning. It was a good surprise.
Oh, nice, man. Thank
Surprise,
Yeah,
Mosaka.
great story with your daughter, bro. That was cool, man. That was real cool.
Hey, thanks, man. It was all right. It's a weird moment to just sort of accept that your daughter, it's not her first boyfriend, but she's 15 now, so it's different, right?
I know, yeah. So what's on your mind, George?
Hey, bro. I'll tell you, it wasn't cool, that rinky-dinky All-Star game, bro. It was pretty lame. It was non-competitive. They need to come up with a better idea. Maybe, how about something like what hockey does? That hockey game was beast, bro. That was awesome.
Hockey stole the weekend with their fights. I mean, hockey fights. You know what it was this weekend was hockey fights, Saturday Night Live 50, and a couple other things that all sort of overshadowed.
There was a pickleball tournament, too, that I watched.
There was some crazy crashes in the Daytona 500 when that picked up after the weather delay.
Yeah, I don't want to be the guy that piles on. I don't want to kick the NBA while it's...
but if you weren't painting the narrative, then you wouldn't be accurate either. And that was the narrative on... If you took the temperature on social media and just the buzz of what people were saying about All-Star Weekend, that's exactly it. But if you see it otherwise, feel free to share. We're just painting the picture for you.
As I said to you, I just don't want to pile on and be like, yeah, NBA stinks, right, guys? Because I just think they're trying. Adam Silver's trying. I'm just saying you can't force people to like something.
I mean, another thing, though, just to show that you're not, Rich, is, again, that's the overall sentiment of how people are feeling, right? So we're not going to come here and be like, dude, that was electric, or we would sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? Draymond Green over the weekend was basically talking about how flat it was, how weak it was, how you have these young players out there that don't deserve to be out there, and that the format didn't work. Like, he made it no secret, and that's been a theory of ours, too, on this show. When you have the analysts and former players and current players dumping on the product, how do you expect the casual fan to be excited about it? That's bad marketing.
Yeah, there were 20-minute breaks in that bracket final, and a lot of the players spoke out afterwards saying they didn't like it. They understand that it needs to be kind of stretched out for TV.
Right, and they're just being honest.
Yeah, but like Kevin Hart was doing stand-up and little skits, and he was at LeBron's locker putting his shoes on. And, and Trae Young said he was part of Chuck's Global Stars. I didn't like the breaks. The games were so short. Obviously, we can score, so they're trying to, I feel like, extend the game, because they need breaks and things like that, but the players want to play.
Yeah, and I think the silver lining here is they're trying to figure it out, or trying to give you something else. Like we always say, Rich, Gary Vee, we quote him, innovate or die. They're trying to innovate and trying to make things exciting, so that's the positive.
They're testing it on live TV, though, is the issue. It's like us. Once in a while on our afternoon show, we'll test a new game that we're going to play.
Yeah.
And it kind of evolves into the final product that we put on the air every week. And that first week or two we do it, we laugh, we have fun with it. It's a little rough, but imagine millions and millions of viewers watching something you're trying to figure out in real time.
I think Rich is really struggling trying to put his finger on the reason that it's just kind of lackluster and boring, but you don't have to look that hard, Rich. It's a transitional stage. You're not familiar with a lot of these young players. It happens in life all the time. And when the stars of the league, when the stars aren't hyped about it, it's impossible for you to be hyped about it. Listen to Draymond Green talk about it over the weekend.
You work all year to be an all-star, and you get to play up to 40, and then you're done. This is so unfair to Victor Wembanyama, who just took this game really seriously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who just took this game really seriously. When you talk about chasing after the points records, Melo, Kobe, and all these guys who've had great scoring nights, they don't get the opportunity to do that with this game. Also, we can watch some rising stars. We're about to watch the Olympic team. Now we get the treat of watching the Olympic team play against a U19 team. Come on, what are we doing?
Scale of 1 to 10, your thoughts of the format?
10 being the best?
Yes.
A 0. Sucks.
0. Sucks.
And he looked mad about it, too. So you're watching this as a fan. It puts it in perspective like, oh, well, because sometimes you're thinking, it's me. Is it me? Why am I not like zoned in on this?
Okay.
Why am I not excited about it? It's not you. Even though we suffer from short attention spans,
I thought about it.
there's something flat about it. Even Stu Gatz wrote, if Dalton Connect, your boy Danny G, is playing in your All-Star game, it's not an All-Star game. It's a some stars game.
I mean, come on. But I think I came to the conclusion. I thought about it.
Connect looked good, though.
I know,
I thought
know,
about
but
it.
I'm just, that's the vibe of everybody.
I thought about it because I said I don't want to pile on and just be another sports TV radio podcaster that's like, the NBA is struggling. Yeah, no crap.
And let's be fair, Rich. Draymond's sour and salty about a lot of things.
Of course. But I think there's 2 layers. Number one, anything that is, resembling a solution to the NBA's struggling ratings or interest all equate to less money, shorter season, less playoff teams, shorter games, and anything that would possibly be a quote, step in the right direction, all equal loss of revenue. So those are not answers. And then also, think about this one. This is interesting. Maybe we just need to see someone do something no one's done. Let me explain. When Michael Jordan was dunking and taking off from the 3-point line, the free throw line, when these guys were doing ridiculous things, Michael Jordan revolutionized
Steph Curry hit a half-court shot.
how we, fly through the air. Steph Curry revolutionized the 3-point shot. Magic Johnson sort of revolutionized ball handling, right? Are we just waiting for some star? Yes, I said ball handling. Are we waiting for someone to just do something drastically different that we haven't seen?
I mean, Mac McClung jumped over a car over this weekend.
No, but do we need...
We never saw anyone jump over the actual top of the car.
No, your boy B. Griffin jumped over the hood. Of
Right,
a
we've seen the hood. He jumped over a car, this dude. That was pretty dope.
But think about it. What else could be done? And I hate to compare it to, something terrible, but it's sort of like smut, right? Like, people keep pushing the envelopes because I guess regular bedroom activity isn't enough anymore. You ever see the categories out there? We get desensitized, and I'm like, all right, so now we see guys hitting half-court shots. We see guys, reverse dunking and doing everything. Do we need something else? Maybe that's it.